Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best.
Today on Around Kansas, we learn about the life and times of General George Funston, then how Tom Watson became one of the most beloved golf professionals of all time. Next, see how opera houses found their place in Kansas communities, and hear the story of Potawatomi's Trail of Death. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome to Kansas, gateway to Oz, under the rain.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Tarwater Farm and Home. Come on by, we'll treat you like family.
Welcome to Around Kansas, and we are filming today from Old Prairie Town at Ward Mead Park in the 19th century schoolhouse, and what a great location this is. We want to thank them for allowing us to be here today. And everybody that knows me knows that my passion for Kansas history is only surpassed by my passion for Kansas military history. So I'm just tickled to pieces to talk to you about one of my favorite Kansans today, and that's General Fred Funston. Now, Funston was not born in Kansas, he was born in Ohio, but his family moved to Allen County when he was really small. So he grew up in Allen County. He graduated from the high school there in Iola, and then he went on to KU. He was not an outstanding student, but he was well known and well liked, and some of his classmates, William Allen White, Ed Franklin, Charles Scott, and Vernon Kellogg, names that would all become famous in Kansas history. Now, when he was just a very young man, not long out of college, he joined a trip to Death Valley, California, and he wrote back to the paper in Iola about his experiences. He did an Alaskan expedition, went to the Yukon, and the stories of his exploits were just eaten up by people. He was a really good writer. Now, after holding several newspaper jobs, he heard General Dan Sickles, and anybody who's familiar with the Civil War, Dan Sickles is a big name. He heard him speak. He was pleading the cause of Cuban independence at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Funston signed up as a Cuban revolutionary, and he went to Cuba in 1896 and served 18 months there under the Cuban generals. During that time, he was wounded 3 times, lost 17 horses, and was captured once. His nephew later said that if he had not lied about his identity and swallowed his passport, he would have probably been executed for being a spy. After he got back from Cuba, the U.S. declared war on Spain, and so now the United States was in it. The Kansas governor formed the 20th Kansas Regiment, and he was picked to lead them. So they went to Manila. So he's fighting in the Philippines. The 20th Kansas, famed in the Philippines War. He goes back to the Philippines after the 20th Kansas comes out. It's Fred Funston who captures Aguinaldo, the leader of the opposition, essentially. It's just one of the most famous moments in history. Another famous moment in history, the San Francisco earthquake, 1906, and Fred Funston is front and center. He's the commander there, the military post at San Francisco. He's the one that bulldozes buildings in the paths of the fire. He makes national news one more time. Amazing guy. He's one you got to find out more about. We'll be right back.
This hog is head over hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need. This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Good morning. I'm Frank Chafin, and this is Around Kansas, the show that tells you about people, places, and things that make Kansas a great place to live, work, and visit. Today, we're in the Wren Radio studio. Actually, we're in the back of the studio in what we call our little snack shop. So when you're over in the Noto Arts District, be sure to stop in and say hi to us. And the reason we're doing this is because today we're going to be talking about entertainment in Kansas, and we're going to give a little history lesson first, because we're going to be talking about opera houses. That's right. Way back before Kansas was a state during territorial days, the entertainment that was available, of course, was live. Obviously, there wasn't radio, TV, anything else. If you wanted entertainment, you went out and watched the cows, or you went to a show. Okay, so anyway, that led to the development of opera houses in the state of Kansas. In the 1860s, the advent of opera houses started because many of the touring companies were located in New Orleans. And so it made it kind of a summer activity because there was only river travel. The advent of the railroads hadn't happened yet. And so the players would come up the Mississippi River, and then from Cincinnati, Ohio, and St. Louis, Missouri, they would kind of spread out across the country to Atchison and Leavenworth. Well, as the state of Kansas grew with more towns, they needed to have entertainment. Now, don't be misled by Hollywood, because they always showed the entertainment in the western towns as in the saloon with shootouts and drinking whiskey and, of course, playing cards. Well, those were in the cow towns. Well, there were a lot of towns that, of course, were not cow towns, they were communities. And so in the 1860s and through the 70s, if you wanted to be an established town, you had a church, you had a school, and you had an opera house. Now, the opera house was used for, of course, community meetings, but also for touring groups to come in. Now, let me tell you about some of the popular acts that were there. There, of course, were minstrel shows, operettas, variety shows, lectures, magic shows, medicine shows, and elocutionists. Now, elocutionists were those that were formal speakers. They had big, deep, wonderful voices, and they would speak for hours on end, believe it or not, and it was pronunciation and style and tone that they used. So these were forms of entertainment in the opera houses. Now, what kind of opera houses were they? Well, some of them were quite ornate, believe it or not. Some of them still exist, as you will see in subsequent shows that we're going to do. But the opera houses, some of them had 2 balconies. They had a slanted floor so that they could install permanent seats, and the light fixtures were quite ornate. There were a lot of carvings around. they were quite beautiful places. There were others that were really kind of plain Jane. But the thing is people were hungry for entertainment, obviously, at that time. So, like I say, the minstrel shows, the magicians, all of these began to travel. The advent of the railroads made it even more popular, but also easier for more and more of the companies to travel. I just learned recently that the Santa Fe Railroad actually owned many of the vaudeville troupes that traveled, obviously, from town to town along the route, staying also in their hotels. Anyway, the 1920s came and the decline of the opera houses began because movies came along. First the silent films and then, of course, the talkies. By the 1950s, most of the opera houses were done. They were closed. Many of them became movie houses, and many of them just simply fell into disrepair and were destroyed. However, there are a lot of those opera houses that have been restored in the state of Kansas, and that's where we're going to have some fun as we travel around the state and visit some of them. The Jayhawk Theater in Topeka, the Opera House in Waterville, and many more. So, this is Frank Chafin saying, see you somewhere around Kansas.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Around Kansas, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
From the Land of Kansas is a trademark program that helps Kansas businesses grow, produce, process, or manufacture Kansas products. Let's meet B&W Trailer Hitches. Based in Humboldt, Kansas, B&W Trailer Hitches engineers and manufactures trailer hitches and aftermarket truck and trailer accessories. B&W's broad selection of products is designed to seamlessly integrate with and enhance the use of trucks and vehicles and equipment that are towed. All B&W products are proudly manufactured in the USA in a state-of-the-art facility that houses a skilled workforce of craftsmen and the most technologically advanced equipment available. B&W is recognized as an innovator and invented the turnover gooseneck hitch, which revolutionized the industry in 1988. To find a dealer near you, visit www.turnoverball.com.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeets.com.
Welcome to Around Kansas. I'm Deb Beisel, and it's very appropriate that we're coming to you from an old schoolhouse today, because this is quite the history lesson. Now, in 2011, when Kansas celebrated its 150th anniversary, it picked out about a dozen events that were the most significant in Kansas history. And the Potawatomi Trail of Death was one of those events. And it's kind of sad that the Potawatomi Nation is still a big factor in Kansas. You know, the still residents of Kansas and have the reservation here. And we tend to know very little about them or their story. When white settlement was made possible in 1854, Potawatomi had already been here for a couple of decades. But how they got here is a pretty sad story. Like most of the Indian removal situations, white people decided they wanted their land, and they were living in Indiana and Michigan, and the government came in and said, you've got to go. They got very, very little notice, and the tribe was rounded up. The principal chiefs were actually put in a jail cell in a wagon. If you've watched some of old Western movies, you might have seen something like that. And they loaded up their baggage, you know, packed up the wagons, but mostly women and children and people were just, some of them were mounted, but most of them were just walking. And can you imagine? This started in September. They actually left September of 1838. They left Indiana, and they walk to Kansas. They get to Kansas in November of that same year. So they're walking through what's going to be some chilly, cold weather, as you can imagine, coming down through Indiana and they came into Missouri. They actually crossed the river at Lexington, Missouri. If you go over to Lexington, that's a big piece of that community's story as well. This is what one of the chiefs of the Potawatomi said about the removal itself. He said, the president does not know the truth. He, like me, has been imposed upon. He does not know that you made my young chiefs drunk and got their consent and pretended to get mine. He would not drive me from my home, the graves of my tribe and my children who have gone to the Great Spirit, nor allow you to tell me that your braves will take me, tied like a dog. And he actually was. That's exactly how he arrived. You know, they got to Osawatomie on November 4th of 1838, and there was supposed to be housing available, and there was none. So you get to Osawatomie, Kansas in November. How are you going to find shelter? It's just incredible circumstances. And if you go to Osawatomie now, if you visit Osawatomie, the trail is marked there. A lot of the city sidewalks and park trails are marked with that Potawatomi Trail of Death, so you can actually retrace some of their steps. There were 756 members of the Potawatomi tribe that first arrived in Osawatomie. There had been dozens that had died along the trail. Most of them were children. More than half of them were children. Now, the Catholic Church had established a mission there, the Sugar Creek Mission in Lynn County. So many of the Potawatomis moved there. And there was an elderly French nun, Sister Rose Philippine Duchesne, and she came in 1841 to teach the Potawatomi girls at the reservation. She worked at the mission until she became too feeble to serve. The Potawatomis named her the Potawatomi word, which I cannot pronounce, but what it meant was woman who prays always. She was later canonized in 1888. Now, in 1848, the mission was moved to Potawatomi County, and today the St. Philippine Duchesne Memorial Park is located on the site of the former Sugar Creek Mission. 600 Potawatomis are buried at the site. Now, there are a lot of folks in the Potawatomi tribe that are making great strides. My friend John Bursaw is one of those, to have more of the history of the Potawatomi made public. And of course, the here in Shawnee County, we have the Potawatomi powwow every Labor Day weekend. But there's so much to learn, and there's just so much more to the story. So I urge you at every opportunity to take advantage to find that out. There's an incredible past right here. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is the fast track to more jobs and America's energy independence. Advanced performance is here, now. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Around Kansas, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hi folks, I'm Deb Beisel. Welcome to Around Kansas. I love nothing more than talking about all the talented folks in Kansas, from Kansas, who have called Kansas their home at one time or another. And we have exported so much talent, and sometimes some of it comes back, and that's the case with Tom Watson. Now, even folks who aren't golf fans are familiar with the name Tom Watson, and for good reason. He's one of the most enduring professional golfers since Sam Snead. And I remember back in the day, growing up, everybody knew Sam Snead as well. He has won 39 times on the PGA Tour. 6 times he was the PGA Player of the Year, 5 times the leading money winner. Playing mostly on the over 50 circuit now, he gives the young folks a run for their money. You know, throughout his career, he was respected as a sportsman and a spokesman for the sport of golfing. He received the U.S. Golf Association's prestigious Bob Jones Award for Distinguished Sportsmanship in 1987, and he was elected to the PGA World Golf Hall of Fame the following year. He won Golfer of the Decade for the 1980s, celebrating his 19 wins and 86 top 10 finishes over the decade. You know, one of the great things about Tom Watson has always been his down-to-earth personality, the fact that he gives back so much. And for 25 years, he hosted the Children's Mercy Golf Tournament, a benefit golf tournament which featured other really famous participants like Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Lee Trevino, and that was all in Kansas City, with the proceeds going to the Children's Hospital. More than 25 years, that tournament raised more than $12 million for that hospital. You know, he always has credited his upbringing in the Midwest, and specifically in Kansas, for his values. You know, he got a combination of a work ethic, and he had mentors, you know, his dad and Stan Thirsk, who built the foundation for his golf game and his whole life. And now that he's not playing on the PGA Tournament Tour anymore, he lives in Stillwell, Kansas, just south of Kansas City, and he ranches there and continues to be a force in the sports community. You know, he put out an instructional DVD, Lessons of a Lifetime. He brought that out 3 or 4 years ago. It's become one of the best-selling instructional programs ever, having sold more than 60,000 sets in 5 languages and 36 countries. Isn't that amazing? And other golfers, you know, talk about what a great instructional video that is. So we're just so proud to share Tom Watson's story with you today, and stay tuned. We'll be back next week with some other famous Kansans.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream. We're the best part of Dorothy's